Hello and hi everyone, my name is Wolf and welcome back to Minecraft, and today's episode is all about this little guy behind me, or at least it's about the subject this little guy represents. Now this is probably going to be my familiar because I have a problem when it comes to fox hounds. It is a problem because there are so many options in this mod pack to have as a familiar, and I always pick a foxhound. But regardless of that, there are a lot of different options available. You are quite literally spoiled for choice when it comes to this mod pack, and I kind of want to walk through every option available to a young witch so that they can see, the full gamut of what their options are, the full plethora of creatures they could have helping them out in various ways throughout their playthrough, or whatever you might choose to have as a companion by your side. But before we get into that, let's pop over to the farms that I have made since between episodes, covering over what I did at the end of the last episode using those principles and getting some blocks generating magically. And if I sound a little bit off, I apologize. It's because I am sick currently, but I'm trying to power through it. So as you can see here, we have our tree farm still doing its thing. Doesn't always succeed in it, but we are generating a lot of source. We turn around here, you can see a giant platform with some machines, which we'll get to in just a second, of various resources that I've been accumulating. We've expanded the amount of volcanic source links here because I needed a lot more source on demand for all the machines that I was running above. And right now I have them all turned off manually, or they're full, so they've turned themselves off, which we'll get into in just a second. And I have some source being built up here in the backlog, which, yes, that is a pun because these are logs in a backlog. There you go. There you go. As we come up here, we'll go ahead and go into free cam. So as you can see, we have quite a few machines all lined up here, and we're not going to go through every one of them. They are pretty straightforward with just some variation of either crush or smelt or changing the order of that. But you can see we have cobblestone, gravel, sand, glass, stone, double cooked stone, all being generated using the principle that we talked about at the end of the last episode, a cobblestone generator. What's new is I've created this automated shut-off system. So we have a comparator that is taking in a signal of 15 through a redstone block. When this is full, it will also give off a 15, which will send a signal to this redstone link, which will then be received by this redstone link, and they're all set up for frequencies of what they produce, so they don't have any cross-contamination as far as sequences go. They power this redstone line, which then shuts off this block because it gives it a redstone signal, which keeps this from being pulsed by the redstone torch that's hidden underneath this cobblestone block. I also have manual shutoffs for the ones that aren't full. So even though this one isn't full, I have this manually shut off because I want to prevent the source from being used up all at once. I want to make sure I have enough source floating around through these logs here. So that's why we have the backlog being produced. Now, when it comes to these, we all understand or should understand how these function. But for these ones, we have something a little bit different going on. For these ones here, I showed you how we could generate dirt from having a second spell turret on the other side, and it would be on a timer and frequently just produce dirt blocks, and then this would send the redstone signal to pulse this one and go through its cycle. What I've done instead this time, though, is I've set up delay conjure terrain for that option. So this one uses conjure terrain to make the dirt block, but it has a delay on there, so it gives it a chance to run through the entirety of the spell. And that delay is enough to where this redstone signal then will pulse and activate the next sequence of this. And because it's on a delay, it will constantly pulse in that manner and constantly produce dirt. So as you can see here, it's actually much faster too, than because this one has to wait for tick updates in order to get the cobblestone to generate. We've actually generated 16,000 dirt, and I've gone ahead and this machine's actually full. So as you can see, this is an example of it being 100% full. This has said, hey, this is full, this is a source power 15, and it shut off the block manually or automatically for us. This one too, I believe, is also full. Yep, this one here is for sandstone. And then we have smooth sandstone, so it's just that, but with smelt on it. This one here, though, for dirt, or for mud, how we're doing that is we are adding conjure water after conjure terrain, which turns it into mud, then breaks and picks it up. Then we can augment this even further by going with evaporate, which then makes clay. And then if we break the clay with extract, we get the clay block. But if we choose not to, we can add smelt, and the clay balls get broken and smelted into bricks. And then I believe this one, yep, is also full. And then from here, we have terracotta. So instead of using break first, we use smelt first, then we break. So we have terracotta. And then we have that being crushed down into red sand from here to here. So as you can see, that was very important because now I have a ton of resources, which means my builds can get ever more complicated. But I don't think we're actually going to be building today, because when we come to talk about familiars, there is so many options, it's not even funny. So many, in fact, that we actually have to talk about it in the theater of the mind, because if we didn't, I wouldn't even be able to give you a visual on most of these creatures. It takes so long just even going through the catalog of what is tameable, let alone finding them in the wild. So, to the theater of the mind with us, so we can talk thoroughly about familiars. There are so many options. In fact, I'm not even confident that I have every one of the available options here in front of us. So if there is anything that I miss, if your keen witch eye see anything that I didn't actually cover today, please let me know so I can add it to the list of tameable creatures. But here we have in front of us a bunch of ones I've went ahead and set up with no AI using the summon command, so we can get a good look at them. We'll introduce the creature and then cut away to talk about any unique recruitment conditions or any unique abilities that they bring to the field. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about the ones that can help you fight in combat. Everyone that can help you assist in your survival rate going through the world. So anything that can help you fight that is at least land-based for now, we're going to cover. And then we'll go over the water ones that can help you fight when we get to that point at the end. So first up, we have the grizzly bear. To tame a grizzly bear, you have to throw honeycomb at it first, and then continuously throw in salmon at it after its muzzle has been covered in honey. It will take multitudes of both salmon and honey, typically. When its muzzle changes back to its normal color, when all the honey is off of its face, then you'll have to throw another honeycomb. So you repeat this process until eventually you tame the grizzly bear. There we go, tamed up for us. And then the advantage of having a grizzly bear is while they are particularly slow, they are very powerful for combat mounts. So if we get a zombie out here, you can see the bear rears up and starts attacking, and you can just walk into the zombie. Let's go into survival mode, so we make this a little bit more fair for them. There we go. Put down the zombie, punch it, and the bear just destroys the zombie. Oh, it's so much fun. So as you can see, bears make fantastic familiars. If you're looking for a combat pet, they might be slow, but they are mighty. Then we have the crocodile. Now, crocodiles can be a bit treacherous to try and get a hold of. First thing you have to do is breed them with some rotten meat, and then they will lay an egg. Crikey. And then once you have the egg secured, you can use time in a bottle to actually speed up the rate in which it will hatch. So that is a good reason to have a time in the bottle handy. And just look how adorable this little guy is. Oh my god. It might be worth it, you know, just at this alone. And also, if you didn't know, in Cottage Witch, you can feed poisonous potatoes to keep a creature in its baby state. You could have one of these little guys just hanging out in your base. It's so cute. But we're training you up here. So crocodiles are very formidable, as you can quite imagine. They will defend you and also have a death grip, which they can use to hold mobs. They make fantastic sources for crowd control for this reason alone. So let's demonstrate how this might be useful for you. Let's say that you're adventuring with your crocodile familiar and you get into a fight with 2 zombies. Punching one zombie will cause your crocodile to lock that one down, making it very easy for you to deal with one threat at a time. Though they do turn into you sometimes. And then bring it over to you so you can finish off the other one. Good crocodile, yes. Then we have the gorilla. The gorilla's pretty straightforward. You just toss a couple bananas their way, and eventually they'll be friends with you. There we go. Had to think about it for a little bit, didn't ya? But gorillas are not really the most useful of combat pets. If we bring out a zombie here and punch it, they will come to your aid and they will protect you. But unlike a typical pet, they won't actually follow you or teleport to you if you wander away. They're just going to hang out and do their own thing. So while it's more of like an ally than I would say a familiar, unless you don't mind your familiar just doing its own thing in the world and not helping you out in combat. Or at least not following you around on adventures. Then we have the Komodo dragon. Komodo dragons are pretty straightforward. You just tame them with a bunch of rotten flesh. And if they happen to breed, if you get a couple of them to breed, they are unfortunately cannibalistic. So they will attack and eat their young. So this is something to be careful of. But if you're able to look past that, they are able to be saddled and mounted. And they are surprisingly nimble, surprisingly quick. You wouldn't think this creature would go this fast. And then as far as fighting zombies go, very similar to the bear, you can just walk into them. And they have a very poisonous bite that deals damage even to the undead. As you can see, still taking some damage after the fact. Yep, there you go. Then we have a capuchin monkey. Capuchin monkeys can be tamed with just a little bit of bananas. Also, I got a certificate of taming from that. That's pretty funny. And so they have a ranged attack that they can perform, even with just regular rocks and stones. You can shift right-click to have them on your shoulder, which makes them very convenient to have around as a pet when exploring dungeons or indoor spaces, because they're always with you. And then, when we have, like, say, a zombie, you can see they start throwing rocks and stone at the enemy, which can be really convenient when fighting multitudes of hordes. They don't switch targets, though, so that's something to be mindful of, as you can see. But it's not too bad. It's not too weak. We can also empower it with a little bit of pet magic. But there's also another thing you can do. Inside of jungle temples, sometimes you will find ancient darts, which you can give to the capuchin monkey. And then if you come back here, stop doing whatever you're doing. Their attacks become stronger because they start using the ancient darts to throw. As you saw, that's actually pretty powerful. A little inaccurate sometimes, but overall, I definitely highly recommend the capuchin monkey as a companion, as a familiar. Then we have a warped toad. Warped toads are found in the nether, but before we spawn one in, let's talk about their food source a little bit. They require crimson mosquito larvae, which you get from using maggots. Let's go ahead and show the recipe here. Maggots and crimson mosquito proboscis, or you can use crimson fungus as well, I believe, to get the crimson mosquito larvae. And then the toad itself, after going through enough of them, is it Wednesday, will become an ally, become a friend. And they can follow you around, they can wander, they can stay. So we'll have it set for wander. And they will assist you in combat as well. And they have a unique mechanic in regards to them being able to pull enemies toward them and get them away from you. So if we pull out a phantom here, the tongue can be useful for pulling mobs that are usually typically kind of annoying to get a hold of. Because as soon as it tries to get close, the toad's going to keep it locked down, as you can see. I can watch this all day. This makes me very satisfied. Good toad. Good toad. I can't pet this one, unfortunately, but you know what? You get lots and lots of pets. Then we have an elephant. Elephants come in a few different forms. You're going to get ones like this in the wild that are tusked. Tusked ones like this are the strongest ones, but they're not able to be tamed by the player. And then you're going to find non-tusked ones like this one here. The non-tusked ones are able to be tamed with acacia bloom. Acacia blossoms. And this one's already tamed. So once you have two elephants that do not have tusks, you'll be able to breed them with acacia. Though sometimes their hitboxes seem to have some trouble with it. There we go. And then this one here, this is a tusked one. And we know that because it has 40 health. And these are the only times that you're actually able to tame one of these ones. So when it's a calf, you need to give it as much acacia as you can. Acacia blossoms. And then once it's tamed, the biggest land mammal, you'll get this achievement for it. And then this is the one we're going to demonstrate as a familiar. Everything that we show with this one here also holds true for these two. But this one is just a little bit stronger. It has more hearts and has an additional attack that these ones do not. Boy, make it loud for me, guys. Really. So once you have the elephant tamed, there's a couple of things you can do. First, you can give it a carpet to give it a dressed up look. Makes it look a little fancier. And the next thing is a chest that can be popped onto it. And then you're going to have access to a much larger inventory than you would with a lot of other mounts. So the elephant is able to fight with you and help you with combat, but they seem a little reluctant to do it all the time. Oh, it might be because I'm holding the acacia blooms in my hand. Hold on. Nope. Doesn't really seem to care. So it's not helping, but I think if I get hit, it will defensively protect me. No, just gonna ignore me? Gonna let me die? There you go. So there's a charge attack, as you saw. So they can be helpful familiars. They can also be a little obstinate. The other advantage that elephants have, if they're tusked, aside from having a little bit bigger of a health pool, is they're able to charge enemies. So let's go ahead and get an enemy onto the field here, if given a little bit of wheat while riding them. So if we give some wheat, and there's the charge that it can do. So you can see it's very powerful. Not as powerful as some other attacks. Also, that zombie really wanted to perish. We have a crow, but specifically the one from Alex Mobs. So these crows can be tamed with pumpkin seeds. I think you have to throw them at them, yeah? Yeah. There we go. Already tamed. Lovely. So Alex crows can be bound to a hay block in which they will slowly regenerate their health if they've taken any damage from any sources. And they can be set to gather items. So if there's like a container or a chest that has an item frame attached to it with an item on it, and the crow is set to gather items like it is right here, if these items are on the floor, the crow should pick it up and place it in the chest for you. As you can see, it's slowly going through the process of accomplishing that task. Though I don't know how it's duplicating seeds. That's relatively interesting, because he shouldn't be creative, even if I am. However, the reason we're covering here is because you all have the potential for being a combat pet. Crows have a unique ability, the Alex ones do, where if there's an undead enemy, they can help you fight it. And they do so little damage, they won't actually aggro the undead enemy. So, see, even though he should, by attacking the zombie, be a threat to the zombie will continue to ignore the crow. And the zombie is only going to focus on me, completely ignoring the crow as it continuously pecks at the zombie until it kills it. A mantis shrimp. Mantis shrimp are typically found underwater, and they can be tamed with tropical fish. Once they are tamed, you can bring them up onto land by giving them a water bucket. But they have a unique function as well, and they can break nearby blocks if you give them a block. So if we right-click this one, there we go, breaking blocks, then shift right-click and give it a block, it will search out for that block and break it. This typically works best when it's done underwater. When on land, they don't typically find the blocks because they need to have a water bucket in hand. But when you're underwater, this is amazingly useful. So as you can see, I've given this mantis shrimp a water bucket so that it can stay indefinitely on land. And then these are incredibly potent fighters. As you can see, doing tons of damage to this guy. Oh man, that is a thing of beauty. Let's watch that again. Mantis shrimp have to be one of my favorites for... I really should take the time to actually get another one of these guys. I had one once, a long time ago. But I just forget how fun this is to watch. Okay, we cannot record all four of these. He's like, gotta do one more. Go, buddy, go! Oh my gosh, it's incredible. And that's your health at. Let's take a look at your health while we're at it here. Oh, you're low. Ooh. They can be healed with tropical fish. It doesn't even take that many. Actually, any kind of fish will actually heal the mantis shrimp. A kangaroo. The kangaroo is pretty easy to breed, and they are arguably one of the most overpowered versions of pets that you can have. Don't be kangarooed. I'm giving you I'm giving you them. Okay. So, once you've got one tamed with a bunch of carrots, you can shift right-click to open up their inventory. And their inventory can take any weapon, or helmet, or chest piece, and they will equip them. And this is one of the reasons why they start to get a little bit broken, because they can use anything. So any enchantments that you can apply to your weapons, to your chest plate, to your helmet, will also be applied to the kangaroo, in addition to pet magic, which we haven't even talked about. So once we have a kangaroo here like this, we can bring a zombie out, punch the zombie, and there we go. Now, here's something that's a little bit cheesy. This kangaroo right here is using a glass sword from the Twilight Forest. The glass sword has 40 attack power, but because it's not you that's swinging it, the kangaroo can use it indefinitely. So this thing hits like a truck. To demonstrate that properly, why don't we bring out something a little bit bigger, a little bit tougher than a zombie, huh? Oh no! Okay, so a warden might be a little bit out of the kangaroo's range, at least not with the enchanted gear, without any kind of pet magic. But I believe in you, Kangaroo, too. I do. So we're gonna go with the Zoglin. Withstand the attacks of that. One shot the Zoglin. Not too shabby, not too bad. A Tarantula Hawk. Now, Tarantula Hawks may not be for the faint of heart. Being that it's a bug, it can be a little squeamish to work with for some witches, which is completely understandable. But they are very powerful combatants. They have a very potent poison that can cut down most mobs' health down to half, and completely paralyze others, like arthropods, like spiders. So if we bring out a zombie here, and we punch that, we can see the poison at work, and just how quickly the zombie's health has completely depleted. And if we bring out a spider, we can see a unique effect when its poison enters into the spider, completely paralyzing it and turning it upside down. Now, for some reason, when it comes to spiders, the Tarantula Hawk seems content to just leave it paralyzed. As you saw, it completely decimated the zombie in a matter of seconds. But for the spider, it seems more intent on playing with its food. Essentia, Courier Bird, the Direwolf, the Nightmare, the Riding Lizard. So I've grouped these 4 land mounts from Mythic mounts together because they're all relatively the same. With Mythic mounts, you're able to use a summoning staff, which you can bind to each individual mount, and it will allow you to have them sit, wander, or follow. And each of these 4 in particular will assist you in combat. The taming item for the Essentia is going to be raw mutton. For Courier Birds, it is sweet berries. For Direwolves, it is bones. And for Nightmares, it is coal. The Nightmare has a special ability where it can walk on lava. We'll demonstrate that in a second, but let's demonstrate a little bit of combat. So if I grab the Essentia's wand here and set them to follow, let's grab a zombie spawn egg. Oh, and also for all of the Mythic mounts, they can have chests and they can have saddles as well as pet armor. So they can use horse armor just like they were any other horse. So if we go with an empty hand and we go over to the Essentia and double right click by shifting, you can see we have a saddle, we have a horse armor, and then they have an inventory based on their size where we just, shift right click with a chest. We can put a chest on there, and the inventory will be based on the size of the creature. So for Courier Birds, they have one of the smallest. For the Direwolf and the Essentia, they have some of the same. And the dragons, I believe, have the largest. But pretty straightforward. You can mount them. They can function exactly like you would with any other mounted creature. If there's a zombie nearby, they will protect you if they are bound to you. So as you can see, that was a pretty fast, pretty easy kill for the Essentia. And as we can see with the Nightmare here, we can walk across lava, which makes them very handy for traversing in the nether. This one is a single block deep. This one is 2 blocks deep. And you can even back up. As long as you're moving on the lava, the Nightmare will be safe, and you will be safe while upon the Nightmare. And as you can imagine, the speed between these 3 is a little bit different, with the Courier Bird being the fastest. Let's go ahead and demonstrate that right quick. And with the bigger mounts having more inventory space, but being a little bit heftier for movement. Oh, another thing to demonstrate about the Mythic mounts is that you can use the summoning staff to pull them to you. Actually, in the last clip, I forgot the Riding Lizard would qualify in the same category. But you can see that you can just give it the armor, the saddle, and then you can shift right click to give it a chest. It has a very limited inventory, but it's also one of the faster ones, I believe. Yeah, this is pretty quick. And very nimble as well. Zarptak, the Griffin, the Netherbat, Dragon. And these 4 are grouped together because for the Mythic mounts, these are the flying types that will defend you in combat. We have the Zarptak, which uses golden apples. The Netherbat, which uses pork chops. We have the Griffin, which uses mutton. And then, of course, we have a Dragon, which uses any precious one. I've gone ahead and just used emeralds here to tame this one. Same story. They're able to take saddles, pet armor, which horse armor, and then also have chest inventory attached to them. And then for flight, all you have to do is hold spacebar, and you keep jumping up into the air, slowly elevating. And then you can continue to maintain the height by just normal movement. But if you hold Alt, you will slowly descend, or you can point the camera downward, would also cause descension as well. Of course, you'd want to see the dragon in action, and I can't blame you. We can see they have the largest inventory, so definitely an endgame pet. I believe they only spawn in the end. And then here you go. Giant dragon doing its thing. And I suppose we can go ahead and put a zombie down for the dragon to annihilate as well, yeah? Surprisingly, he took 2 hits. Would have expected a single hit. The kangaroo hit harder. But didn't take any damage in turn, so that's fair. Then we have my choice, which is the foxhound. So the foxhound requires you to be fireproof before you're able to tame them. They will take coal items, but once you are fire resistant, you can go ahead and tame them just like that. You get the advancement playing with fire. And if you can pet them by holding shift and right clicking, but if you're not fire resistant, they will set you on fire because they're very warm. Foxhounds have 2 unique interactions. One, they will sometimes sleep on top of a furnace, just like this, let flaming dogs lie. And it actually increases the speed in which the furnace will cook or go through its actions. So this is beneficial for you for one. The second is that they are completely fire resistant. So if we were to dunk them over there in lava, they would be perfectly fine, taking absolutely no damage. That's probably one of my reasons for preferring them the most, is the inherent fire resistance. There are other things we can do to make our familiars fire resistant, but I just like that it's inbuilt and ready to go. Plus, this functions in combat very similarly to a wolf. So if you've ever had a wolf in vanilla Minecraft or in any other mod pack, this functions in the same capacity. You have a great understanding of how to utilize a foxhound in combat. And the wolf should need no introduction. A classic in Minecraft, the wolf is tamed with just bones and will assist you in anything regarding combat. I love the expression. Now, they aren't the strongest by any means, and they have no special skills, but they can be fed with rotten flesh or any other meat to heal them. So let's get some rotten flesh. There you go. And then you can see, of course, with the height of the tail, how much health they have. A crow from Hexarray, which is completely different from the crow from Alex Mobs. Now, to tame a crow from Hexarray, the first thing you need is a pestle and mortar, which you can find naturally spawning in the covens inside of swamps, or you can craft it yourself. You add in wheat seeds, melon seeds, sage seeds, pumpkin seeds, and finally beetroot seeds. It will mix into a seed mixture. When you come across a crow, which typically can also be found in those structures as well, you get the Hexarray crow, which can be tamed then with seed mixture. There we go. And then the crow has a unique UI where it actually can equip weapons, have a hat, as well as some special items for its 3rd slot. So for your team crow, if we hold shift and right click, you can give it a warhammer, which is a Hexarray exclusive weapon. And it can be enchanted with a whole plethora of enchantments as well. And it's crafted via brewing. We can give it a hat, which will give it some armor as well. And then, of course, the Crow Ankh Amulet, which acts as a totem of undying for the crow. And you can see the hat is even animated on him. He's wearing his bling, he's wearing his medallion. These are one of the coolest pets to have as a familiar, in my opinion. But there's more that the crow can do besides just this. Crows can also be set to help you gather items. So if you look at a coffer here, there is an option to have crows gather, and it will gather items that match whatever is in this inventory inside of the coffer. So if we throw out some seeds, the crow should see that, pick them up, and place them into the coffer for us. That makes them wonderful utility pets as well. But we're more interested in the combat part of this for you specifically. Alright, so the crow is set to follow now. Got a warhammer back in hand, or back in beak, I suppose. Let's get a zombie in there. Go, crow, go! Oh. You see that got one shot there, but the Ankh is keeping it steady. So, little underpowered, unfortunately, when it comes to combat. They do their best, though. You can enchant the gear to where they can make them a lot more stronger. Definitely having sharpness or smite on top of their mallet will help out a lot. But having a few of these around can actually help. And as you saw, even though it got hit, it didn't perish in one hit. So, and there's things that we can do with pet magic to improve this even further. Jumping spider. Now, the jumping spider is a little bit unique in its recruitment because while you can find them out in the world, you need to give them dragonfly wings in order to tame them. But in order to get dragonfly wings in Cottage Witch, you actually have to create insectoid gate pearls. And these are made by an Eye of Ender, 4 bottles of honey, and vegetable peels, which vegetable peels themselves are made from the overweight crop blocks that you sometimes see in the world being sliced on a cutting board with an axe, floating out in the world. But once you're able to make an insectoid gate pearl, you're able to get dragonflies, which you can then use to tame the jumping spider. And then the jumping spider is a relatively capable combatant as well, but as you can see, will take a lot of damage. Comes out very close when fighting a singular zombie, so it definitely needs a little bit of help if you want it to survive. A bald eagle. Now for the bald eagle, we once again have some unique mechanics. First, you're going to need fish oil, which you can obtain in Cottage Witch from any 4 fish plus a bottle. So typically in Alex Mott's, it is blobfish specifically and a glass bottle. And then once you have this, you're able to tame the bald eagle. There we are. Freedom intensifies. Now the bald eagle can have a piece of equipment known as a falconry hood, which increases its precision, but primarily you use the falconry glove to hold the bald eagle like this, which is pretty neat, which is pretty cool. Gives you that real hunter vibe if you're going for that kind of playthrough. Now, as long as you have the falconry glove in your offhand or in your main hand, you will be able to hold the falcon. You can place a mob down and then punch at a mob, and as long as you're looking at the mob, the bald eagle will take a shot at it and then return to you once the mob is dead. Now the bald eagle can also be equipped again with the falconry hood, and what this does is allow you to take direct control of the falcon, which can be used both for observation into the wilds if you yourself don't want to go there, or if you want to take more direct control of your falcon when using, or when your bald eagle when using it in combat. So, oops, if we'll take that out of my offhand, take this, and we go punch. You can see we are now in direct control of the bald eagle. And the mob decided to go hide in there, so you know what, instead of worrying about that one, maybe we can try taking on some of these phantoms that have been floating around. Nope, it's a little hard to control, honestly, or at least for me it is. But if you hold shift at any point, you hit left shift, you can dismount from it, and it will return to you. Just like that. Oh, there's that mob again. Go, let's try again. It might be better to just let the falcon do its own thing. There we go, hit it once. Got hit in return, unfortunate. Hey, there we go, not too shabby. Not too bad. There we go. Now for underwater mobs, we gotta talk about the mimic octopus. And forgive me if you can hear a fan in the background. I'm starting to feel a little nauseated from heat. I'll be fine though. So, how this works is a mimic octopus can be tamed between 5 and 14 lobster tails. There we are. So this one is now tamed. And it will pretty much do absolutely nothing as far as combat goes in this particular form. You can give it a prismarine shard. It will not consume the shard to do it. And it will transform into a guardian. Or you can give it a pufferfish to make it transform into a pufferfish. Or at least camouflage into one. And gunpowder to make it transform into a little creeper. Now the reason that you do this is because it will use this to try and scare off nearby mobs. Or predators or anything like that to give you some space. But once you get to the end, you can find mimic cubes, and mimic cube cream can be applied to an octopus, and now it'll actually be able to use its attack. So it's able to use a laser beam, stinger, or even explode on enemies. So if we get it drowned out and we punch it, let's see what the octopus decides to do. Oh, went for a laser and shot the drown in the back. Oh, it's taking some hits back in return, though. There we go. Got it eventually. We'll get another drown and punch that one here. Let's see what we get this time. More lasers. Every so often, you'll see it actually use pufferfish sting, where it'll just charge into the drown over and over, stinging it and poisoning it. And it's pretty funny to watch. There we go. And that is the mimic octopus. The mud skipper. Mud skippers are able to be tamed with lobster tails, and then what they will do is assist you in combat by shooting balls of mud, which slow targets down and do a little bit of damage. So if we get it around here, and again, another primarily sea-born creature. Take a drown, punch it, and we can see the mud cup are going to work already. Keeping the drowned at range. Now, obviously, a drown with the trident is going to be a little bit more sufficient than this is, but overall, another useful utility helper in the water, and where you are most vulnerable, because water is a very difficult place in which to thrive and survive, even in modded Minecraft. So that was all the combat pets. We're finally through that section of it. The other two sections are not nearly as verbose as those ones are. They don't have nearly as many members in their category. We're going to talk about utility pets next, and then finally we'll go with just the cosmetic, because cosmetic has the least amount. When it comes to utility pets, we have the Cosmo. For Cosmos, we had to come to the end for this one. So the Cosmo can be tamed by Deviant Fish, or Cosmic Cod. There we go. Is it a fish? Is it a bug? What is it? They will not help you in combat whatsoever, but they will help you in the end, especially in your early navigation, because if you happen to fall off the edge, they will grab you with their claws and pull you back and drop you gently onto nearby land. So these are fantastic before you have the ability to fly or before you have an elytra. They're following you around, taking care of you. Generally, genuinely worth it. The sugar glider. Sugar gliders can be tamed with sweet berries. There we are. And then once you've tamed one, you can shift. You showing me your belly? Right click to put them on your head. As you can see here, the sugar glider is clinging to my head now. And this will provide a slow fall effect whenever I'm gliding or moving around. So if we were to, I don't know, let's say jump from up here and glide down. Oh, so gently. I stopped pushing forward halfway through that. Let's do that again, this time without. So if we run and jump up here, we can glide nice and slow. So not the greatest of effect, but it's still something. And then every so often, the sugar glider will dig through leaves for treasure. It'll sometimes probably be saplings or leaves, sticks. But every so often, it'll be something a little bit more interesting than that. But they are adorable. So, you know what? We give them credit just for being adorable, yeah? The elephant. Now, the elephant, which is a little bit different than the elephant, is this cute little guy right here. It can be tamed with peanuts, cutie patootie. And what they do, utility-wise, is they will help you farm by watering plants. So if we grab this and some wheat seeds, and let's grab a water bucket as well. Here we are. So if we go like this, and then have a water source nearby, the elephant will absorb from the water source and then hydrate your crops for you. There we go. See, and look at that. Growing it up just like bone meal. Very fun. The ferret. Next up we have the ferret, and the ferret is tamed with raw rabbit. Once you have them tamed, you're able to help. They're able to help you hunt chickens or rabbits. So that makes them a good utility pet if you need help with chickens or rabbits. A ferret is the way to go. Your base Minecraft cat. So I'm going to list the cat as a utility, and this might be a little bit controversial, but because they can keep creepers away from you, they have a use. They don't do absolutely nothing for you that's beneficial, unlike some of the other cosmetic familiars that you can have with you. The Sporling is a creature you can find in several places in the overworld. There's also another variant of them, and they have a special property. After you tame them with bone meal, they will become, of course, one of your, familiars. But if you have a piece of gear, like say this one here is a diamond chest plate with curse of unbreaking, or curse of breaking 3, anything that has a curse on it can be tossed to the Sporling. If they decide to pick it up. Come on, Sporling. There we go. They remove the curse from it and give it back to you. And then we'll take some durability damage. You'll also get a little bit of XP from it, but then it will be completely clean of all of its curses. In addition, you can actually wear a backpack, the Sporling backpack, and if you have a tame Sporling, you can snatch it up and carry it around on your back. So, I mean, this is pretty adorable. Little companion to follow you around. Obviously, this probably is better suited at home than it is at taking into combat. But yeah, a very useful pet to have. Very useful familiar to have to get rid of all the curses on any items that you find that you don't want them on. The Celytra, the giant Gekatoa, giant moth. So here we have 3 more mythical mounts that are available. These ones are passive, meaning that even if you have them tamed, they will not help you in combat, so that's why they are separated. We have the giant moth, which can fly. We have the Celytra, which is also capable of flight, and the giant Gekatoa, which is a ground mount. Summoning staffs can be applied to them just like all the other mythical mounts. They could have horse armor as well as having saddles and having inventories attached to them with chests. The Celytra can be tamed with sugar, along with a few other various items that are fruit-based, I believe. The Krakatoa can be tamed with pumpkins or melons. And the giant moth is a bunch of flowers. And I also believe sugar. Actually, it might be flowers, now that I think about it. I think it's flowers, the Celytra as well. Let's check in the book. If you have any questions on any of the mythic mounts, there is a book dedicated to them specifically. And if we go to Celytra... Oh yeah, actually, it's flowers and sugar. And any of the mushrooms, I guess, from the nether as well. And then for the passive mods, the last 2, I believe, for mythic mounts, the Archelion, which is a water-based one, as you can imagine, turtle, and the Nudibranch. And with all the other, just like all the other mythic mounts, you can do a summoning staff and everything for these 2. But the Archeron is tameable with salmon. There we go. And the Nudibranch is tameable with seagrass. And as you can see, they come in a multitude of colors. These are also, again, passive, so they will not assist you in combat, but they can help you get around when you're underwater. And the way they accomplish that is pretty straightforward. You hit spacebar just like if you were trying to take flight, and they have a little bit of a swim speed increase. With the Archelion being significantly faster than the Nudibranch. And now we go for the purely cosmetic mobs. The Shiba, Red Panda, the Raccoon, and the Shima and Naga. So these ones being purely cosmetic, there's really no benefit to them other than maybe what you can get passively through some pet magic, which we'll discuss a bit next episode, because this episode's already getting long enough as it is. But you throw some eggs to Raccoon, they will wash the eggs, and eventually they'll decide they want to be tamed. The Shima and Naga requires just a bunch of seeds. You give it a bunch of seeds and it will be tamed just easy. The Shiba just needs bones like you would with any other wolfhound, but it won't help you fight or do anything regarding combat. And then the Red Panda just needs sweet berries. And eventually they'll be tamed by you. But I think this one fell asleep or got full. It's not tamed yet. You're very greedy. Here's another egg. There we go. The sweet berries finally tamed. How about you, tameable? More eggs for you. There we go, finally. That took a lot longer than I expected. Now I just gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with all of these. So, that's a lot of familiars. That's probably all of them, right? No, there's still one more category of familiars. I pulled a fast one on myself because I actually forgot about this entire classification of familiars available to you. Ars Nouveau, besides being able to summon familiars for helping you with various farms and things like that, which is why I ignored them the first time because I only thought about them in their farming capacity, also has the ability to have them be proper familiars, following you around in the world and doing things for you. So, yeah, we've actually got all of these to go through as well. So, just a little bit more. And in your spellbook, there's a couple tabs here on the left-hand side, one of which is familiars, and this is how you can summon them. Each of the familiars are going to do something a little bit different. The Amethyst Golem is going to make it to where you take decreased knockback from enemies, increased knockback when attacking enemies, and when you give it an Amethyst Shard, it will give you the shield spell for 3 minutes that absorbs some of the damage that you would otherwise take from enemies. The Starbuncle is going to get a gold nugget, will give you gold sight, so you'll be able to see wherever gold may be buried. This is where I buried some gold earlier. You can see it here, lit up because of the Starbuncle, and because we gave it a gold nugget. The Wixie does 3 different things. One, it increases the duration of potions that you activate. So for this one here, it's fire resistance for 3 minutes. Drinking this, though, is actually going to give it for 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Giving it a potion ingredient will give you a potion effect. This one gave me potion of regeneration. And finally, here we go. And finally, the Wixie can apply negative potion effects. You can see there's some potion effects on this zombie whenever you hit them. Gave him levitation. Bye. The flare cannon increases fire spell damage by 2. Gives you 20% discount on projectile attacks. And if you give it a magma cream, gives you the fire resistance effect for about a minute. The Whirly Sprig cuts the cost of earth spells by half, as well as gives you better saturation on any food that you consume. The Drigme increases the power of earth spells by 2, as well as gives you a chance of increasing looting levels whenever slaying an enemy. The Bookworm functions like a magnet, but only for items that you don't throw away. So if you throw away an item, the Bookworm will ignore it. But if an item were to drop... Actually, I'm in creative, so I don't know if it actually worked that way. 1 second. If items were to drop, it will be magnetized into your inventory. Thank you, Bookworm. And finally, the Siren Familiar gives you bonus +2 to water spells, as well as Dolphin's Grace 2 while swimming. The cost to maintain any familiar is very inexpensive. It's just a percentage of your maximum mana. As you can see, my maximum mana has dropped down to 220 whenever you have a familiar active. And to get the bound scripts, in order to get the familiars into your spellbook, you use a ritual binding on the appropriate entity. But we haven't actually even gotten into rituals and gotten into any of the meat of that part just yet. That's got to be its whole dedicated entire lesson in the future. So, it's the next day in real life, and as you can tell, I am feeling significantly better. I am no longer sick, or at least, hopefully. We hope that I'm no longer sick. But I'm feeling much better, so I decided, you know what, instead of waiting a week to talk about pet magic, instead of taking a whole nother episode dedicated to discovering it, because it really, hopefully, isn't that long, and this video is already long enough as it is, we might as well make it the entirety of pets. So, ready for Class 102 for pets? We're going to talk about pet magic, specifically domestic innovation. Domestic innovation has a very small part in the quest log. It is this part right here, but it's actually a very powerful component for working with familiars in a multitude of ways. I went ahead and tamed a foxhound here behind me. So we're going to get this guy over here. Come on, you're supposed to be following me. See if we can get the foxhound to teleport. There we go. There we go. And if we push our foxhound onto a pet bed from domestic innovation, you're going to see some Z's happening. These Z's indicate that this pet is now bound to this pet bed, meaning that if this foxhound were to perish for any reason, whether it be in combat, falling from a high place, drowning in the water if they tried to fall us into the ocean, they will respawn like a player would at their bed. So now that this pet is sufficiently safe, well, actually, you know what? You can just kind of chill on there. That's okay with me. We are now able to have this one come into combat with us without any worries or problems of our familiar perishing in the middle of combat, which is fantastic. And this applies to any mob that you can tame, but also any mob that you can't tame as well. So ones that you can just make friendly or allies can also be given a bed, and they will just respawn the next day. Don't know about hostile mobs, but considering the foxhound is considered a hostile enemy, even when tamed, I think it would work for any mob in particular. The next thing the domestic innovation provides is a feather on a stick. And this is just a fun little item here. It just lets you play with your pet. Let's see. Oh, there we go. That's how you do it. So your pet will play with this. You can also use this to kind of guide them in places. And this has durability, but it is just a fun little item that you can use. And actually, you can use this to get them to go on the beds a little bit easier than I did before. The next item is the command drum. This allows you to have multiple pets listen to commands, whether it be stay, sit, move, so on and so forth. So you can set it to wander or to stay. And hitting the drum will cause any nearby pets to follow through with whatever the command is. The next item we went into the Nether for, because to demonstrate this one in the overworld, which you will see will become relatively problematic very shortly if I was to do it there. We tamed a foxhound and it's wandered its way all the way over there somewhere. I believe it actually just fell off into the lava, but it's perfectly fine. Being a foxhound, it can handle being in the lava. But the Wayward Lantern can help you find pets in a dimension if the pet is somehow missing, whether it's in chunks unloaded or just completely lost. By placing one of these down and having a player approach it, all pets tamed to that individual will spawn next to the lantern. On a multiplayer server, this is something that would be ideal to have just one designated lantern in every dimension, because it can not always be the lantern that you approach. It could be any of the lanterns or the oldest lantern sometimes. The pets will find their way to the wayward lantern. So ideally, you want to have this be a designated location that everyone has access to and not have the pet be lost, but at a wayward lantern, but you're not sure which one because there's 100 of them in every dimension. But if we place this down here and approach it, our foxhound should return to us. And there we go, the foxhound teleported away. You actually they have to be thoroughly lost. I had to go over that way, teleport to the overworld, and then come back via teleport commands for them to be here. But yes, if they are lost, you see they come back to you with the wayward lantern. Next thing to talk about is the deed of ownership. This allows any pet that you have tamed, you get right click on them with the deed of ownership, and then if another player were to consume this item, they would gain control as though they had tamed the pet themselves. So this allows, on multiplayer servers specifically, the ability to transfer ownership of pets to another player, opening the possibility of giving something like a bear to your friends so that they can run around with a little bit more safety if they're not, able to do it, or if you have someone who's particularly brave, able to tame alligators with some regularity, the ability to pass them off to everybody on the server, in case you have some friends who maybe not as able to approach these individuals, these two things being particularly dangerous. Well, the bear a little less so than the alligator. The alligator is pretty, pretty dang heavy to approach, but the deed of ownership can help a lot with that. Next thing to talk about is the collar tag. The collar tag is one of the more important parts of domestic innovation of pet magic in and of itself. This functions as a de facto name tag when given to a pet, as long as it's been named in Anvil, so this can save you up on name tags, though Cottage Witch has other options for doing that. If you open up a spell book, there's actually a spell for name, and then you can actually name things with this as well, saving yourself the level, because this will still cost you 1 level of EXP to rename it in an Anvil. However, this is enchantable. All of these enchantments can be applied to a collar tag, which then can be applied to the pet, making them enchanted with the effects. And as you can see, there's quite a few options available to you. I've listed them into the defense category, the offense category, utilities. This one here I put in its own separate category because of how important it is. Tethered teleport lets you teleport with your pet. So if you have a pet that has tethered teleport, whether you're using a waystone, whether you're warping with the /home command, whether you're using a bottle of tears, however you teleport, the pet will come with you, which makes them very, makes it able to use your network and have them be a lot more utility. This one's almost a requirement for anyone who's going to be using familiars in combat wherever they may go. And then finally, we've also got curses over there. We'll talk about those in just a second. So are you ready for a lightning round of information? Let's go. Each of these enchantments, some of them have levels, some of them do not. We're not going to go into the lower tier of them. We're just going to discuss what the effect does in itself. Obviously, a level 2 is going to be stronger than the level 1. For Healing Aura, we're looking at the level 2. Pet will occasionally heal you and other pets around it, so having a motley crew of a bunch of pets with Healing Aura 2 basically makes your entire pack that much more difficult for mobs to take down. Then we have Rejuvenation, which basically is mending for pets. Any experience that falls on the field, the pet will be able to absorb that and heal themselves up, making them a little bit more self-maintaining. Next up is Blazing Protection. This will protect your pets by providing 2 bars per level that have to regenerate. It will have a knockback effect and set any attackers that hit your pet on fire. After that, we have Diffusal. Will nullify explosions to terrains and blocks, which kind of gives them a little bit of creeper resistance. You can think of it as blast resistance, but it also affects the area around the pet. Warping Bite will teleport mobs away from you, so if you're looking to get some range between you and the enemies, this is one of the ways that you can do that. Muffled will make it to where your pet no longer emits vibrations when moving, which makes them resistant to skulk sensors, as well as wardens and things like that. Extra health just increases their health by 10 for every level, with the max health being 30 at level 3. Fireproof gives them immunity to fire damage and lava damage, which inherently gives them the input properties of a foxhound. Immunity frames gives them iframe, so whenever they take a damage, they will be invulnerable to follow-up damage for a little bit. This makes it very easy to handle packs of enemies at a time. Deflecting gives them a ghostly shield, which helps deflect projectiles against the pet. Poison resistance, which gives them immunity to the poison effect. Psychic wall, which has to be demonstrated, so we're going to demonstrate that one here. So as you can see here, when you apply a collar tag to them and you hold shift when you're looking at a pet, you can actually see the effects on it. So this one has Psychic Wall on it. And what this is going to do is create a wall between you and the enemies whenever present when Psychic Wall is on one of your pets. So if we place a zombie here, for example, and we switch to survival mode, the pet should produce a wall that prevents the pet from coming through. And you can move through the wall freely yourself, but the enemies cannot do so. As you can see, it blocks them. And this can be great for dealing with enemies that are particularly dangerous. There's also a little bit of a repulsion effect. I don't know if you saw that at the end where the zombie got pushed away from the wall. It will constantly push enemies back. To start off the combat section, we start off with Chain Lightning. It summons a bolt of lightning whenever the pet deals damage to the enemy, and can chain into other mobs based on the level of the enchantment. Next, we have Frostfang, which slows mobs and starts to deal freezing damage to them. This is great for crowd control. And Shadow Hands creates different shadowy arms that come out of the pet that deal additional attacks. So as you can see here, if we demonstrate the Shadow Hands, this is what your pet looks like when it has them available. And Frostfang, I went ahead and threw that on there. I believe that Chain Lightning is not compatible with the hands. So if we set a zombie out, you can see what it looks like when this... And with Frostfang, it slows them down so much they can't even get anywhere near at all. To start off the utility section, we're going to start with Gluttonous. Gluttonous allows the pet to take any type of food, regardless of dietary restriction. So diets are a thing of the past. Whatever food you have on hand, the pet will take it gladly. You can use it to heal them, and so on and so forth. Intimidation scares nearby hostile mobs away from the pet. Linked inventory does not work exactly like you would imagine. It just links the pet's inventory with yours, but not in the capacity of if they have chest space or if they are a mount that has an available inventory. It'll just move the items into your inventory whenever they come into contact with them. Disc Jockey allows a jukebox to be played by your pet. Charismatic lowers the prices of trades when dealing with villagers, which is fantastic for any kind of cosmetic pet, like a cat that you bring around with you whenever you're hanging out with villagers and doing your trades. And then we have Ore Scenting, which allows your pet to sniff out blocks and tell you about the distance and roughly the direction, I believe, for any ores in the ground. And then finally, Speedster, which requires a demonstration, increases a pet's movement speed. To demonstrate Speedster the most effectively, I feel we should use the Grizzly Bear. If we can see, one of them has Speedster 3, the other one has no enchantments. And if we remember correctly how slow this one moves. Oh yeah, this is speed. This is pod racing. So if we grab that, we'll put you back on the lead. There we go. And if we grab this one, we zoom in now. So you can imagine this thing with the power of Grizzly Bear moving at this speed. This becomes a force to be reckoned with. Finally, we have to talk about curses. There's 3 of them that I feel like are kind of niche in terms of uses. They're mainly just negative. And then one of them that kind of has a positive effect to it. So first we have Curse of Afterlife, which returns your pet after it dies as a hostile mob. I'm not exactly sure why you'd want that. Curse of Blight, which causes plants to wither and die around the pet. Curse of Immaturity, which turns your pet back into a baby, lowers their damage. If it's a cosmetic pet and you've already tamed it, like let's say a cat, this one might be a good one to have just because you're not really using that for combat already. So having a little baby cat on your shoulder couldn't be the worst thing. And then finally, the one that I think is useful is Curse of Infamy. It will make naturally nearby enemy monsters hostile to the pet. So the pet will always have aggro and act as a bit of a tank, giving you that room to breathe, especially if you have things like extra health and immunity frames on your pet, and the one that has the knockback on it and fire damage to it. So this one could be potentially useful for you. Now you can roll the enchantments if you get lucky on an enchanting table, or find them out in the world. But another option is to get a villager and give them a pet bed, which will turn them into an animal tamer. And they have a chance of having enchanted books, though I don't believe it's their first level trade. It's actually like their second or third level trades. But you have the potential there to have this man give you out all the enchantments that you could possibly need. And now it's time for the rematch of the century. Here we have in one corner Little Mac, which as we can see has a Warden Helmet with Thorns 4, Protection 4. Again on the chest feed as well. And then a Glass Sword with Sharpness 6, Faster Attack, Ice Aspect, and Lifesteal. But then we've got extra health, aura, healing aura, immunity frames, frost fang, and shadow fang. So what now? Oh, you're not even fully healed. Let me get you some carrots here. Let me get you all healed up here. So now, how much chance do you stand against a warden? Let's find out. Yeah? You have full health now? Yes, you are. Ready! Fighter ready! Enemy ready! Fire! Oh, but you know what? Not bad. Not bad at all. So as you saw, this will not solve all of your problems, but this still is a force to be reckoned with. So may not be able to take on a warden by yourself. There's actually still even more we could do. There is even more magical effects we could apply to you, buddy. But we haven't discussed any of those mechanics, and this is not the episode to begin going into more things. It's already long enough. So with that, even though no progress has been made, hopefully this has been an enlightening experience for you, talking about all the different pets that you could have, all of their abilities, all the things that you can do and enhance them with domestic innovation. And maybe in your world, you're going to find a pet that best suits you in your adventures, in your time exploring through the Cottage Witch worlds. Hopefully in some capacity, this was useful for you to enjoy yourself. Find something that you really like. I know that I am now inspired from this episode alone to go find a capuchin monkey, because I think that's going to be hilarious to walk around in dungeons and have it throw rocks and eventually darts at enemies. And I definitely want another one of the mantis shrimps. I definitely want another mantis shrimp, because that was hilarious watching zombies fly through the air set on fire. Oh, that's a must. That's a keeper. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye for now. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully hopefully I stay healthy. Hopefully I don't get sick again, and the next episode will be just as energetic as it should be as we dive further into the Cottage Witch world. So this is Wolfa saying goodbye. I didn't forget about parrots. I just really dislike parrots. You're the one creature that I would actually consider actively detrimental. No, I don't care. I will say it. I'll say it loudly and proudly. Actively detrimental. You're not included in the video. Get out of here.